This is Saturn Girl. Like this video and subscribe to my channel. Comment below because I want to know what you think and it helps me out with the algorithm. Please also do me a favor, and when you subscribe, click that bell so that you get notified when my new videos drop. And my videos are the best. Well, obviously I'm wearing my party dress, aren't I? So it must be something fun going on, right? What is it? Well, on December the 29th, Venus, my mama, and our lovely lady of licentiousness will enter the fun and fiery sign Sagittarius. Yes, and she will remain there until January 23rd of 2024. What does this mean for you, for me, for us? Well, in order to find out, we're going to have to do your horoscopes, won't we? So please watch till the end of this video because then you'll get the most from it. But first, let's look at this fun chart, shall we? So, oops, here's today. And here's Mama Venus at the end of Scorpio. Poor Mama, she's not happy. But then, boom! She bursts into Sagittarius. Yeah. You see, Venus has been going up behind Mars since the fall, sort of cleaning up his messes, right? So Venus is like, and I'm here to remind you of the mess Mars left when he went away. It's not fair. Well, it's not fair for me to sing at you because I'll probably disturb your pets in the background. And you don't want them howling at my terrible voice, do you? So, well, Venus, as I said, has been quite unhappy in Scorpio. So even though she's trying to clean up his messes, it's sort of a vain effort, like, I don't know, tossing wood chips on vomit at a carnival, right? It's like, I may not see it, but I can still smell it. That's gross. Sorry. Anyway. But she's about to throw away the mop and bucket entirely. Get up on the bar and shake her beautiful booty. Yes. You see, when my mama Venus is in the Jupiter-ruled fire sign, well, let's just say she enjoys herself. Yeah. Come on, mommy, let's go party. Ooh-oh, ooh-oh. All right, anyway, I'll stop with that. Well, let's remember what Venus rules. Yes, Venus rules pleasure, enjoyment, beauty, love, romance, art, and music. What about Sagittarius, on the other hand? Well, it gets its meaning from Jupiter primarily, right? If you follow me, you know that the signs primarily get their meanings from the planets that rule them and their place in the solar cycle. So it's a sign of both wisdom and fanaticism, joy and overindulgence, brilliance and bimbos. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of both, but you know. Sag is mutable, right? Therefore, hypocritical and inconsistent. It also occurs just leading up to the winter solstice, which is typically a festive time of year because it represents that time when the light begins to wax again and the days begin to get longer again. So this natural optimism about Sagittarius that isn't just about Jupiter. And yes, it is a fire sign, hence daring and intrepid. It's Jupiter turned outwards, you see, on an adventure to discover the nature of existence. I mean, we also think of centaurs as sort of the symbol for Sagittarius, right? Centaurs were those mythical, half-human, half-horse creatures, right? And they weren't very nice. They were boorish, boozy, and sexually violent, you know, not very nice creatures. Yeah. sort of reminiscent of, some Sag people I've known. Anyway, when I think of Sag Venus, I think of a cowgirl, right? Some even like to wear cowboy hats. I mean, I've been ridden a few times by Sag Venuses, yeah. Not that I'm a horse or anything. But anyway, she knows what she wants, right? She likes 80s rock quite often. She probably sings that Def Leppard song, pour some sugar on me. Oh, in the name of love, pour some sugar on me. Come on, fire me up, I mean, she likes pole dancing, doesn't she? No one probably remembers that 90s movie Coyote Ugly. Obviously, I'm old. But that's what I think of with Sag Venus. Coyote Ugly. Anyway, I've dated my fair share of Sag Venus natives. They always shove their hands down my panties on the first date. I'm not complaining. I'm just merely making an observation. So, I sure enjoyed it at the time. I mean, you ain't gotta lie. I know you're not gonna call me tomorrow. That's for sure. Not even to say thanks. Anyway, she's a free spirit, my mama in Sag, right? She's my cherry pie. Cool drink of water, such a sweet surprise. Tastes so good, makes Saturn girl cry. Sweet cherry pie. I mean, sometimes I'm the cherry pie, right? But she's more than just a party monster, isn't she? She's also brilliant. Often brilliant. Several of the Sag Venuses I dated had master's degrees. I mean, lots of people have master's degrees, but still, I think it's pretty representative of people's intelligence in many ways. I remember one of them telling me about their thesis while we were hooking up, I mean, is there anything more Gemini and Sag, right? Sag Venus can be inspiring, have a passion for understanding, be attracted to deeper meaning, religion, spirituality, justice. She can be an earnest seeker of truth or a rigid enforcer of her own. Sometimes both, right? She can be for freedom or fanaticism. She can also be a big hypocrite. That does happen. Sag Venus also needs to be careful about having too much fun and falling into substance abuse or addictive tendencies. But let's look at some famous people with Sag Venus as examples of these. First on the list we have Samuel Jackson, right? Samuel L. Jackson. I love him. He's so much fun. You see, he grew up in the American South and experienced loads of racism, right? Jackson himself attended Martin Luther King Jr.'s funeral and was inspired to dedicate himself to the Black Power movement, right? At least, that is, until the FBI called his mother. And she basically told him to stop it. So, unfortunately. But you might see Jackson maintain that same sense of justice in his private life. I love him as Jules in Pulp Fiction. What ain't no country I ever heard of? They speak English in what? Right? English, mother! Do you speak it? Anyway, I love that movie. The other interesting thing about Mr. Jackson is he struggled with a heroin addiction throughout the 80s and 90s. So he also has had, to struggle with that part of his life, as is quite typical of this placement. Well, we also have Dame Judi Dench, right? You might recognize her from, the Bond films recently. I mean, she was a very famous actress in the UK for a very long time. you see. But she gained more contemporary notoriety through those movies. And it turns out she's quite religious. Yeah. She's been a devout Quaker since childhood. And Dench also found love again later in life. She met her current person, David Mills, back in 2010, after the tragic death of her husband in 2001. And I watched a couple, interviews with her, and she made some cheeky references, about playing with her boyfriend, or I guess she calls, I don't know what they call each other. But she made cheeky references to both of them playing with naughty knickers, right? Naughty knickers, which is, very cheeky underwear, you see? And very characteristic of Sagittarius Venus. We also have Jamie Lee Curtis, the famous actress who I talked about in the last video, who starred in the 80s film, lots of 80s films, right? But she was in Trading Places, which was sort of big. And I believe she was in Halloween, where she kind of took off, right? But then everyone knows her from Freaky Friday, when, oh my gosh, I can't even remember her name. Lindsay Lohan played her daughter, and they did sort of a crisscross thing, like one person's consciousness went into the other person's body. It, sort of like it was a remake. But that's besides the point. What's interesting about her with the Sag Venus is that she married the famous film director Christopher Guest. And this was after seeing a picture of him in Rolling Stone magazine after he released his famous film. This is Spinal Tap, right? All ramps go up to 11, right? Well, why don't you make 10 the highest setting on your amp? Well, no, all amps go up to 11. None of you will remember that. Anyway, it's a great movie, Spinal Tap. So she sees this picture of him in the Rolling Stone magazine, and she tells her homegirl, yo, I'm about to marry this dude. 5 months later, they're getting married, so a little prescient. Well, Curtis also is a recovering alcoholic, and she struggled with addiction to painkillers and prescription medicines as well. She also has a trans daughter, and she's been an outspoken advocate for trans rights. So, very close to my heart. And then, how about Jane Fonda? Yeah. I've got all these older ladies here, all these older mummies, You could tell I'm a Saturn girl because got these older mummies. Well, Jane Fonda is internationally known as America's celebrity activist. She gained infamy at home in the United States for her famous opposition to the Vietnam War. She also visited with the Viet Cong and communist soldiers. And she got a lot of flack for that. I mean, my dad was a Vietnam vet. I know he wasn't very fond of her. But as the child of a Vietnam vet, I'm very appreciative for her opposition to the war. You see, haters still refer to her as Hanoi Jane. I mean, Well, now she's involved in climate change protests, and she's still getting arrested, Showing that she still got it in her 80s. I mean, she was also a sex symbol after her 1968 film, the science fiction satire Barbarella, right? She's still gorgeous. Now, we'll finish with another man, David Bowie. I'm not Jermaine. I'm David Bowie. Turn back, Sarah. What is that plastic thing round your wrist? Sarah, bow down to me and I will be your slave. I mean, that whole movie, The Labyrinth, is toxic as you know what. No wonder all of us millennials are a little screwy and into BDSM and stuff, It's because we saw the dynamics in The Labyrinth and other 80s movies, and it's like, anyway, you know what I'm talking about. But David Bowie has been labeled a sex addict by several of his biographers. Bowie would dismiss his licentiousness in interviews by saying He was just quite promiscuous at the time. Sounds a little bit like someone else in the news. Who's that? Well, you say I was quite promiscuous at the time. Right, Russell Brand. That's a bad Russell Brand impression. But you see what I'm saying. In fact, there were some dark parts to Bowie's promiscuous past. Like a woman named Lori Maddox, who apparently lost her virginity to Bowie when she was 15. And he was a full-grown ass man. So, not very kosher. Yes. Well, anyway. But all this yuckiness aside, what does this mean for you? Well, number one, it means don't go crazy on New Year's, please. Remember how crazy them centaurs get. You know? They finish all the good wine first. Jupiter's going direct the next day. So we'll have a tendency to take things too far. Sag is a mutable sign, so a lot of these are just bad decisions we make by the seat of our pants, in the moment. So do your best to anticipate your silly behavior, right? Me especially. And make good plans, like, well, I'm only gonna eat or drink this much, right? And allot it out for yourself. And once you hit the end, you're done. Or plan for safe travels, like a designated driver, paid rides, or public transportation. Make plans with safe people you trust. There are a lot of predators out there, and some of them have Sagittarius Venus. And it really helps to surround ourselves with trusted friends, because that helps to keep us out of trouble. This also means that passion is unusually high. We may even see ourselves get fanatical. I mean, it could just be about causes and justice, but it's usually about religion and politics, especially now as we're approaching election season. Things are heating up, right? And I've seen more and more hateful rhetoric. Sagittarius can be so convinced that he's right, and at the same time be a tremendous hypocrite, right? I have Jupiter in Sag, you know. Anyway, on a positive note, though, she's bringing some much-needed levity into the house Mars has been transiting for you, right? He goes ahead, stirs up conflict, and Venus does a lot of apologizing on his behalf. In Sagittarius, though, it will be less apologies and more justification, right? Like, well, you see, I acted like a baby because she's a, you know, and she did this to me. Screw her, right? Rather than taking responsibility for our own decisions. But she's also about to show us how to lighten up in that area of life, indicated by the house she's transiting in your natal chart. So what does that mean right now? It means we're about to do your horoscopes. Yes. Remember, we always do these for rising signs. Yeah. So if you don't know your rising sign, I really suggest you find it out. In order to find it out, you will need your exact birth time. If you can't get that, and you really can't find your rising sign, then you can watch these horoscopes for your sun sign. It's just way more practical if you're able to know your rising sign, because then you'll understand the houses that are being activated here, you see? But let's start with our Aries Rising homies, right? Aries Rising. So you see, Venus is entering your 9th house here of beliefs, rules your 2nd house of money, and your 7th house of partnerships. This means Mars has been going through your 9th house for a while, right? Probably making you unbearably fanatic about what you believe. I really hope you haven't been telling all your friends that birds aren't real. You know, I mean, I just had eggs and chicken a little bit ago. There were no gears or wires. Just letting you know. But Venus coming into this house can teach you not to take yourself so seriously. You can use your passion for your own values and your intelligence to impress your dates right? Or you could reconnect with your current partner on values or beliefs. It could be sort of a point of contact or understanding between you two. You may also connect with a woman, because it's Venus, from another culture or who speaks another language, right? Because it's the 9th house. Very interesting stuff. Well, what about Taurus rising? What about our Taurus friends? What about Taurus? Taurus, more like Boris, right? I mean, hey. Who are these people? Oh, we went too far. So anyway, Taurus, that means Venus is entering what? Venus is entering your 8th house of death and debt, rules your 1st house of self and your 6th house of health and obligations. That means Mars has been encouraging you to spend more money, right? More than you probably have. And I bet that credit card got a little hot, didn't it? You know, from being swiped so many times. I mean, we don't even really swipe credit cards anymore, do we? We just type in the numbers, right? Anyway, Venus is coming in, right? To help you budget yourself and help you forgive or be forgiven, right? Because the 8th house is debt. And I think of forgiveness as squaring an emotional debt, yes? I notice that our hearts soften a bit when Venus goes through our 8th house, right? And we get a strong pull to mend bridges that we may have burned with people that we had conflicts with. So you will have a tendency probably to also beat yourself up as you reflect on past events. So please remember to treat yourself with a little bit of mercy. One of the things we have to learn on a spiritual path is when to be ruthless with ourselves and when to be merciful, you see. So, well, what about Gemini Rising? Our Gemini Rising homies, yes? That means Venus is entering your 7th house of partnerships. Lucky you. And rules your 12th house of isolation and mental health, as well as your 5th house of children and pleasure. Pleasure. Yeah. So have you been getting into fights with your partners? Did you have a breakup? Maybe you've just gotten absolutely sick of being alone, and now you actually want a partner. I don't know. You know, actually want a partner after just being a Saturn's, well, you know what I'm talking about, right? Venus going through your 7th house often brings harmony or understanding to our romantic relationships. And this is a great time to give your partner some extra attention. Or, if you're single, it's time to mingle. You will also be more charming than usual, right? So take advantage of it because, you know, you may get lucky. Also, be conscientious of your partner's mental health. They could feel isolated, depressed, or be overindulgent with food or drink. So you'll want to be a good influence, yes? But anyway, what about our Cancer Rising friends? We love Cancer Rising, don't we? My bestie has Cancer Rising. That means Venus is entering your 6th house of obligations and health, right? Or we could call it the 6th house of Christmas present, right? Rules your 11th house of Christmas future, as well as your 4th house of Christmas past. Stupid jokes, I know. You know, the 6th house is health. The 11th house is hope, so future. The 4th house is the past of Christmas past. Yeah. I'm not very funny, it's okay. I mean, I think I'm trying to make myself laugh. You know, the rest of you are purely incidental. So, if any of you chuckle, then it's a job well done. But Mars going through the 6th house of obligations. Force your nose to the grindstone. and you were likely tidying up your house and knocking things off the list. But I also bet you're tired. Venus going through our 6th house is about what? Self-care and balancing our needs with our duties and obligations. This is a time to make sure you're eating right and getting enough rest. You'll probably get sucked into either helping your parents or some friends, right? So please make sure to take care of yourself, because you're no good to anyone else if you're struggling to keep your head above water. You know? I know when I used to volunteer with the beach lifeguards back in California, they tell us, you're no good to anyone else if you're drowning. Well, how about our Leo Rising friends? Yes, we all know that I simp for Leo Rising. Yes. I simp for Leo Rising, mamas. And this means Venus is entering your 5th house of children and pleasure, rules your 10th house of life direction, and your 3rd house, right, of local community, communication, and siblings. When Mars goes through our 5th house, our kids become holes, right? You know what I mean? And they fight us on everything. We also get extra, right? Extra randy, you know. Or desperate to have fun. Usually it feels like nothing is fun and everything is just frustrating. Well, Venus transiting this house may actually help you to consummate things or find enjoyment in some way. This is a great time to go to a concert, go to local events. I mean, I certainly enjoy 5th house style public events. You feel me? You may also reconnect with a sister, aunt, or female family member. Cousin, perhaps. Venus will also likely bring a fun and immature woman into your life. Probably named Saturn girl. And you should take her to do fun things around town. Because, you know, I mean, if that comes up. I'm just saying. Anyway. What about Virgo Rising? Our Virgo Rising friends. This means Venus is entering your 4th house of parents and past, rules your 9th house of beliefs, and your 2nd house of money. So Mars here probably brought up fights or conflicts with parents or from your past. Maybe even to do with your living situation. We can be at odds with landlords or roommates or, you know, or just with, you know, the T's and C's, the terms and conditions of our rent or whatever. All those rules, you know. Well, now Venus touring your 4th house could bring money from your parents or ease up a rent situation. If you had hidden fees or something or whatever, perhaps you figured out how to fix that or whatever. You may suddenly be finding yourself reconnecting with your past, genealogy, or the beliefs of your ancestors. This is also a wonderful time to decorate our homes, to make our space feel more like us, right? To be a reflection of our inner attitudes or our inner being. And hopefully, you know, I mean, it's pretty messy around here, so I hope my inner attitude isn't chaos. I mean, anyway. What about Libra Rising, homies? Venus is entering your 3rd house of community and extended family, rules your 8th house, right, of death and debt, as well as your 1st house of self. While Mars is in the 3rd house, we often have conflicts with siblings or extended family members, like, you know, like aunts, uncles, cousins, that sort of thing. But what I see most is road rage. Yes? White knuckles on the wheel. You know? We take our aggression out on the road and other drivers, don't we? Well, Venus coming into your third house now brings safer commutes. But she also rules your eighth house of forgiveness. So for you, she's especially about making up or reconciling with people. If you've had falling outs with family, you'll probably be making amends, right? It's Venus, so you'll probably be making amends with a sister, right? Venus also rules sisters. But I would also like you to take some pleasurable outings. Do stuff that you like to do, not things that you have to do, right? Whereas before, it's always errands. Like, I have to do this, I have to do that. I've got to be there at 4 o'clock, right? But this transit also bodes well for creative work surrounding media, arts, speaking, or writing. I think of content creation quite often. So, there's that. If you're working on a book or something, time to put some work into it. Get some inspiration. But it's time to move on to our Scorpio Rising friends. We love Scorpio Rising, don't we? This means Venus is entering your second house of money and rules your seventh house of partnerships as well as your 12th house of isolation and mental health. This will be a welcome change for you because money has probably been burning a hole in your pocket, right? This usually indicates unforeseen expenses or just spending more than you should. I mean, it was also the holidays. A lot of us have kids, right? Money gets scarce. But Venus entering your second house will help shift your focus and your attitude toward money. You may want to hide it away from yourself, right? Because the 12th house sort of thing. Hidden money. Out of sight, out of mind. You won't touch it if you can't find it. Like maybe you lock the credit card in a drawer. I don't know. Also, you may need to spend your money on self-care or doctor's appointments, right? Again, 12th house sorts of things. It's also likely that you have to spend money on your partner, or they might help you with your financial situation. But let's move on to our Sagittarius Rising friends. So for Sagittarius Rising, this means Venus is entering your first house, right? Of self. Rules your 6th house of obligations and health, as well as your 11th house of hopes and friends. Mars in your first house can feel exhilarating, but it can also feel exhausting after a while. We get more assertive and confident. We also have the desire to rush around. And in the process, we often hurt ourselves, right? Mars rules little injuries like cuts, burns, scrapes, and bruises. Venus touring your first house brings you grace. I mean, at least you should be a bit more graceful. But it's also time to be more cautious and to take care of your health. This, again, I always talk about 2 things, nutrition and sleep. Good food and good sleep. 2 things I always need to work on. And especially, no rushing around. You also could get help from a certain female friend with the situation that's been troubling you. Right? Because it's Venus, and she rules your 11th house. But let's move on to our Capricorn Rising friends. For Capricorn Rising, Venus is entering your 12th house of isolation and mental health, and rules your 5th house of children and pleasure, as well as your 10th house of life direction. So having Mars going through your 12th house, right, for a while, it makes you a bit agitated. And then we don't want to deal with people, and we may be feeling especially prickly, like, don't touch me. Don't touch me. Venus coming into your 12th house, though, often helps us reflect on those things that are bothering us. And helps us find alone time or me time that can help us process these sorts of things. This is like the classic self-care transit. And you may find solace in romance, right? 5th house something. or spending time with your children. Maybe they're off from school still, I don't know. But it's a good time to take them fun places, you see. This is also, or you also may want to use your alone time to strategize about your life direction, right? The direction you're headed in. And whether it means, you know, career plans or addressing your reputation or something like that. But you're going to want to think about the current you're moving in and plan about whether this is proper for you or not, or whether it makes sense for you, and come to some new decisions or new plans perhaps. But let's go to our Aqua Rising friends. You see, this is me, Aquarius Rising. Venus is entering our 11th house of hopes and friends, rules our 4th house of home and parents, as well as our 9th house of beliefs. Mars going through our 11th house probably meant haters, right? That's what happens. It's often fights with friends or fans, or you could just get a load of negative attention. I know I pissed some friends off, but even more than that, I got a load of hateful messages from transphobic people telling me to do all kinds of awful things to myself, you know, or threatening me. So Venus entering this house, though, could bring some love and levity from your circle of friends, from groups, or your online community, if you're terminally online like I am. Well, you will find yourself connecting with people on spiritual, social, or moral beliefs, or even based on heritage or similar pasts. For those of you into group play, this sort of transit often encourages it. I mean, Venus, love, 11th house group love. Sounds fun to me. Yes. A woman may also come into your life who becomes an ally, or even a romantic partner. Either way, they would be a supportive influence. But let's go to our Pisces Rising friends. So Pisces Rising, Venus is entering your 10th house, right, of life direction, rules your 3rd house of extended family and news, right, and community, as well as your 8th house of death and debt. So Mars has been crashing through your 10th house for a while and could have caused problems at work. Now, whether that's fighting with bosses or suffering some sort of public embarrassment, right? You were likely a bit cocky, or maybe you even decided to quit, right? Like, ah! I think of Jerry Maguire with 10th house Mars. Like, I'm just gonna freak out. You know? If you did, right? If you did quit, Venus can help you to find something new and probably get some help from a female mentor or your current boss. Yeah. If you did have conflicts with an authority figure, you'll likely notice some constructive results. Not that the conflict was the right thing to do, but it was like a dam bursting, and you probably made your boss aware of something that they needed to address. Well, and Venus going through your 10th house also brings praise and recognition. So I foresee you being acknowledged for some sort of job well done. Well, I hope that was useful for you, or that it will be useful for you. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. Please subscribe and consider donating to my Patreon so that you can help me keep making fun content like this, right? All my information is below in the description. Check out my other videos too, because I have lots of educational content and I'm just really cute and fun. I also do the best readings. It's science. You can book through my website, frankielynch.com, or you can message me, and all my contact information is below in the description as well. But most importantly, I love you. You're beautiful. And have a spectacular whatever it is you're having.